Betsy, what's the problem?
Karen, my mother-in-law, was grinning. You made the reservation, right? It seems like you didn't make one for me.
Of course. This is a family trip after all.
Huh?
Today is just for the family. The driver isn't part of the family, right? How can you not understand that?
At that moment, something inside me snapped. Oh, is that so? Then I guess I'll head home. I grabbed my belongings and headed for the entrance. My name is Betsy. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. I've been married to Lance for 3 years. We're currently living happily together. Lance works for a corporation since graduating from college. We both work, so we're financially stable, and I thought we could continue to live peacefully. Lance has an older brother, and his parents seem to have high expectations for him, being their eldest son. Lance, being the younger, seems to have more freedom. Because of this, my husband and I haven't needed to interact much with his parents, maintaining a comfortable distance. I've never had any issues with them, just visiting during Thanksgiving or Christmas. But they've never complained either. I think our peaceful life is partly because Lance views his family and our home as separate entities. However, one day, everything changed.
Betsy, when are you going to have kids?
Excuse me?
Hurry up and have a boy, will you? I'm counting on you.
This was an unexpected directive from Karen, out of the blue. I was shocked. Having children isn't something you can just do if you want to. Lance and I had been thinking about having kids, but it wasn't that simple. I didn't understand why Karen suddenly started saying these things to me, but I responded politely to avoid upsetting her. However, she kept calling, even during work hours. She never used to call so frequently. What was going on? I'd call back when I could, and she'd ask questions like,
"Are you pregnant yet? Are you trying to conceive?"
I thought she'd get bored and stop calling after a few days, but it only got worse. If I didn't return her calls, she'd leave a ton of messages. Ignoring them only led to more calls. If I were a stay-at-home wife, I might have received even more calls or visits. A chilling thought. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and talked to Lance about it. At first, he seemed skeptical, but he was shocked when he saw the extensive calls and message history. Wow, that's crazy. I know, right? It's a bit overwhelming. Why this sudden change? Even Lance didn't know. But your parents live with your brother and his wife, right? Why is she contacting me so much? I'll ask my brother about it. And he called his brother. What? For real? Okay, alright. He's talking to him, looking very surprised. After hanging up, he was visibly surprised. So, what did your brother say? Turns out, he's divorced. No, you're kidding, right? I'm not. His wife left recently, and he moved out to live alone. I was stunned. They seemed like a happy couple. I never expected them to split up. Lance, deep in thought, muttered to himself. Maybe, now that my brother is single, my parents are looking to us for a future heir. Indeed, the timing of the divorce and Karen's calls coincided, and she kept mentioning having a boy. So now that they couldn't rely on the eldest son's family, they were turning their expectations to us. This was troubling. The thought of continuous contact from Karen was daunting. I wanted Lance to stand firm against any pressure from his parents. Karen's calls were relentless. Each time, I talked to my husband, reporting what she said and asking him to intervene. He agreed, but he seemed somewhat pleased, saying, "But Mom really has high hopes for us." This bothered me a bit. The stress from her frequent calls was mounting, so some days I turned off my phone to cope. Eventually, I got a budget smartphone for work, so I could keep my personal phone off during work hours. This reduced my stress at work, but my resentment towards her grew. If she continued like this, I considered blocking her number. When I started ignoring her daytime calls, she finally came to our house on a weekend. "Hey, Betsy, why aren't you answering your phone? Every time I call, it says the phone is off or not connected." "Oh, sorry about that. I've been turning off my phone because of how busy work is." "What's that all about? Are my calls more important than your work?" "No, work is obviously more important," I thought to myself. She berated me even though my husband was with me. "You know, if you just got pregnant already, I wouldn't have to call you so often. Do you understand that?" No. You can stop with your calls anytime you want. It's up to you, I thought to myself, but didn't say it out loud. It would be too much trouble. I was also hoping my husband would help out. If he spoke up firmly to his mother, maybe she would back off. But contrary to my expectations, he started agreeing with her. "You know, she's right. We need to get pregnant soon." "What?" "We need to fix the situation so Mom doesn't have to waste her efforts." What is he talking about? Why is he agreeing with her and encouraging this behavior? I couldn't understand his intentions. I continued to ignore calls from her. But then, on weekends, she would come over and team up with my husband to blame me. I started to wonder if it was my fault for not being able to have children. So, I worked hard at trying to conceive and even underwent fertility treatments. What if I still can't get pregnant? I worried as months went by, but then one day, I finally got pregnant. I immediately told Lance. He was thrilled, and my mother-in-law was overjoyed. I felt relieved and I had fulfilled my role. During my pregnancy, both Lance and Karen were very kind to me. The frequent calls and snide remarks stopped. They even showed concern for my health. However, when it turned out the baby was a girl, they both changed their attitudes drastically. "Honestly, you're just useless." "You have to give birth to a boy to be the successor. I'm seriously disappointed." I was stunned. Does it really matter if it's a boy or a girl? I was appalled by the sudden change in them. It completely snapped me out of the almost brainwashed state I was in and brought me back to the state before the pregnancy. These people are a bit off, I realized. But I gave birth to a daughter. Karen showed no interest, but my husband was happy, saying she was adorable. That was a relief. I was worried he might completely avoid her. If he had shown no interest in our daughter, I was prepared to leave him. But he did care for her, and I couldn't just take away her father. So, for now, I decided to continue our marriage. Karen didn't even say congratulations or give a baby gift. But as for her, I had already given up and didn't expect anything, so it didn't matter to me. A year passed quickly after my daughter was born. I finished my maternity and parental leave and returned to work. One evening, while having dinner with my husband, my phone rang. Ugh, it's your mother. Really? I wonder what she wants. I hadn't received calls from her since the incessant demands for a grandchild, so I was curious about her reason for calling, especially during the evening when I was with my husband. Hesitantly, I answered the phone. Good evening, Betsy. I could tell right away that her attitude was different from usual. I was thinking of going on a family trip next weekend. A sudden family trip? What is she up to this time? And I'd like you to drive. You know, since Lance doesn't have a license. So please. As I listened, she explained that the destination was a winery near enough to drive to. Sure, we could swing by the in-laws on the way, but it would be a bit of a detour. I've already made the reservations, so I'm counting on you, she said before hanging up. She's made reservations even though I haven't agreed to go yet? She's so presumptuous. What did she say? I told him about the family trip she was planning. Really? Awesome. He was thrilled. He used to keep a moderate distance from his parents, but lately he's been keen on attending these gatherings. Apparently, he's happy to be treated like the eldest son since his brother has cut ties with the family. I thought it didn't matter, but maybe it's important to him as a brother. Lance was happy, and if I refused to drive, Karen would probably be furious. So I decided to endure the trip for one night. Reluctantly, I agreed to go on the trip with my husband and his parents. We decided to leave our daughter with my parents. Then came the day of the trip. We had planned to leave at 6 a.m., pick up my in-laws by 9 a.m., and arrive at our destination by 10 a.m., per Karen's wishes to have time for sightseeing. I woke up at 5 a.m. to get ready, and my husband, still groggy, managed to wake up as well. Alright, let's get going, I said to myself, determined to make the best of the trip. After a 2.5-hour drive, we were finally nearing my in-laws' place. But I shouldn't have underestimated the Saturday morning traffic, especially since it was the start of a long weekend. We arrived at their house right at 9 a.m. When we rang the doorbell, it was my father-in-law, Scott, who answered. Oh, good. You made it. Sorry to trouble you, but my wife is still getting ready. Can you wait in the car? So, Karen, who had insisted on starting early to sightsee, wasn't even ready yet. We waited in the car for about 5 minutes before Karen finally appeared. Sorry about that, she said, not seeming sorry at all. My husband and Scott sat in the back, so she took the passenger seat. As I drove, she kept clicking her tongue and muttering complaints about my driving in a low voice, thinking the men couldn't hear. I chose not to react, just driving while she grumbled for over an hour. Soon, vineyards began to appear, signaling our arrival. It was just past 10 a.m. I was relieved we made it on time, but then Karen said something as we got out of the car. You said we'd be here by 10. And we're late. Her comment irritated me, considering the delay was entirely her fault. We spent the time before checking in, sightseeing, and eating, and even though she had me running errands like carrying bags and waiting in lines, I tried to stay positive, thinking I just had to endure this overnight trip. Finally, it was time to check in. Betsy, could you go check us in? Yes, of course. I thought once we checked in, there wouldn't be much else to do. At the reception desk, I said, I have a reservation at 3 p.m. for 5 people. Martinez. But something was wrong. The clerk looked confused. We have a reservation for 4 people. I instantly knew what had happened. Karen had made the reservation. The clerk, sensing something amiss, apologetically informed me.
We were told during the reservation that there would be only one female guest, aged 60.
Clearly, Karen had intentionally excluded me. I was embarrassed to have caused a scene at the hotel. I'm sorry. There seems to be a mistake with our reservation. Can we add another person? The clerk tried to help, but eventually said, I'm sorry, but we can't add another person to your room, and we're fully booked today. As I stood there wondering what to do, Karen approached.
Betsy, what's the problem?
She was smirking. You made the reservation, right? It seems like you didn't make one for me. I couldn't help but speak sharply due to her attitude. Then Karen said something unbelievable.
Of course. This is a family trip.
Huh?
Today is just for the family. The driver isn't family, right? How can you not understand that?
At that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't be part of a family with such people. Oh, I see. Then I'll go home.
Yes, you do that. A daughter-in-law who can't even bear a male heir has no place in our family.
She was smirking triumphantly. I grabbed my luggage and headed to the entrance. My husband and Scott looked surprised. Hey, Betsy, what's going on? It was Scott who came after me, not my husband. It seems Karen intentionally didn't make a reservation for me. What? Is that true? He was shocked. Well, it's something she would do, and since my husband is on her side, I'm going home. I glanced at the reception and saw my husband laughing and talking with Karen, seemingly unconcerned about me. My feelings for him had completely changed. Wait a minute. What's going on? He didn't know about her bullying. It's a long story. I'll send you some evidence on your phone later. I really don't want to see her face anymore today, so please, let me go. I said that and left the hotel. As I drove away, tears started to flow. I couldn't forgive them for their treatment and was angry with my husband for not defending me. I decided to take action against them and hurried home. I packed my bags and returned to my parents' house. They were surprised but furious when they heard the story. After calming down, I sent the audio evidence to Scott. The audio I sent to him included all the demeaning comments and harassment from his wife and son that I had recorded over time. It had their pressure about having a grandchild soon, Lance's agreement with it, and the vile words when they found out I was having a girl. It also included their rush for a boy after our daughter was born and the recent interaction at the hotel, which I had recorded. His response to the evidence was apologetic. Thank you for the data, and I'm sorry for all the pain you've been through. Things moved quickly after that. Lance rushed home and contacted me in a panic. Hey, why is all your stuff gone? I can't be with someone who sides with their mother instead of protecting me. Let's get a divorce. He was shocked by the mention of divorce. Let's at least talk about this. So I went back to our house for the first time in days, leaving my daughter with my parents. When I arrived, both Karen and Scott were there.
Betsy, you're the one who brought up divorce. What are you thinking? You think you can get away with that? I won't allow a divorce. If you want a divorce, have a son first.
She was as harsh as ever, losing her composure even in front of her husband. Yeah, you have responsibilities, so no divorce. I was beyond anger. I was just appalled. It doesn't matter what you want. I'm prepared to fight this through mediation or whatever it takes. I have evidence of your mother's bullying and the fact that you never protected me. This is more than enough for a divorce, and I might even claim alimony. My statement made Lance and Karen panic. What? Alimony? Let's not make a big deal out of this. Well, it is a big deal. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered? You'll never understand the pain of not being protected by your own husband. Anyway, I'm set on getting a divorce. At that point, Karen, not wanting to lose, turned to her husband for support.
Say something to her.
Scott then spoke up calmly. Well said, Bessie. Be strong for your daughter. Leave my son and stupid wife to me.
Wait, what are you saying?
Dad, what are you talking about? Quiet. I'm disappointed in both of you. Aren't you ashamed of your petty bullying again?
What do you mean, again?
I've been told before by our eldest son's wife about bullying from you. They said they'd resolve it, so I didn't intervene. But now you've started bullying our younger son's wife. I won't forgive this. I want a divorce.
What? Are you serious?
Of course. Unless I'm cutting ties with you. What? Dad, why? I'm disappointed in you also. A man who can't cherish his wife is not my son. Reflect on what you've done.
Both Karen and Lance were devastated by Scott's declaration of divorce and disownment. With Scott's help, I was able to divorce Lance and receive alimony and child support. Karen, having been a housewife for years, couldn't find work and ended up moving in with Lance, who struggled financially due to the alimony and child support. I felt they got what they deserved. Later, Scott contacted me again, saying Lance's brother wanted to talk. At the cafe, I met not only him, but also his wife. It turned out they had pretended to divorce to escape from Karen, and continued living together, a plan proposed by Scott. I was glad to know they hadn't actually separated. Now, I often meet with my former brother-in-law, his wife, and Scott for meals, always bringing my daughter along. Scott is delighted to see his granddaughter. Being a working mother, I manage well as a single parent, enjoying a peaceful life free from the stress of my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I look forward to working hard and watching my daughter grow up.